that time of year, Christmas is fast approaching. There's not many days left working in the office, and that kind of made me think a little bit around what security challenges would be faced by people in these kind of organizations over the Christmas period. So Lee has very graciously decided to give us a couple of minutes of his time to answer some questions I've got for him. So we're going to dive straight in. And I'm going to start throwing a few questions at Lee, and I appreciate probably not quite as prepared as you would have been. I've not given you a lot of notice for this, Lee, so I apologise, but I'm hoping that it give real world answers at kind of short notice. So I've not got too many questions for you. The first one I've got is, what do you think is going to be the biggest cyber threat to organisations over the festive period?
I think the biggest risk is going to be from phishing and probably ultimately ransomware. I think at the moment everyone's looking for a deal. They're looking to get that late present. The scene, unfortunately, as many years has always been set for the scams, which are like, your parcel's been delayed, you need to pay for it, you're finding that deal that's just too good to be true. Here's an email, please confirm your order, etc. So yeah, I think those are probably the most common ones, I would think.
Interesting. Yeah, I can imagine it would be. We all get those kind of regular emails, and I guess during Christmas time, when there's a bit more emphasis around people wanting to get stuff for Christmas, you can be, maybe your guard's not as quite where it should be. So I guess following on from that question, what would you say is the best way that people can protect themselves from that type of threat?
The first thing is, I would say, is slow down. Have a good look at the contents. If there's links there, hover over them, especially if they're from email. And I would also say just engage with sites that you know and trust. A good tip is, try and go to the website directly and not through the link that's been sent. So you'll be able to access anything that you've maybe ordered or things like that. I'd also ask yourself as well, are you expecting an email from that company? Because if not, then, be really cautious. It could be a hidden present.
That's very true. Yeah. Okay. Solid advice there. And I think everyone's kind of got to be cautious around clicking at, as you would be anyway. You're always clicking links and emails, but particularly, that path of least resistance of just tapping the link that's in there, sanity check it and actually prove it's from the sender they say it is. Yeah, great advice, Lee. Thank you. Like ourselves, a lot of people are going to be shut down over Christmas, wrapping up around Christmas Eve, maybe a day, 2 days before, and then coming back in January. So there's that kind of extended period where people are away from their offices and their organisations. Is there any kind of additional security steps you'd recommend that people look at and consider for protection over that extended period of people being away from the office?
There's all the good stuff you would normally do, but I mean, one thing I would certainly focus on is, check patches, especially on endpoint devices like VPNs, because if you're away from the office for a period of time, it's a great opportunity to launch an attack that's going to go unnoticed. I think about 2 or 3 years ago, TravelX was hit that way. I've recently seen a disclosure that's come out from Fortinet with a similar issue on their VPN. So again, something that needs to be done. I'd also say, if you have the time, actually no, let me rephrase that. Make the time to get a full backup of your systems and keep that offline before you go for Christmas. It's a good restore point to go back to if the worst happens. It's also a good thing to have an end of year copy of your data in a safe. And last thing, if you're using endpoint security with signatures, like traditional AV, is make sure they're up to date as well.
It's a good standard practice, but yeah, it's always worth reinforcing the fact that you've got protection and actually test it as well, making sure that should something occur while you're not in the office, you've got a way of getting everything back and, hopefully preventing it occurring in the first place. Okay, excellent. And I suppose the last one is probably looking a little bit forward to rather than the festive period. So moving into 2023, obviously, people are going to be coming back to the office. The hybrid working model is going to continue, I think, for a lot of people. So I guess my kind of open-ended question to you is what do you see as being the biggest security challenges facing organizations and individuals going into 2023?
I mean, actually, looking back at statistics, I don't think it's really going to change much from 2022. Ransomware is probably one of the biggest, and still is. And doubled up with that is the unauthorized disclosure of data, because they're doubling up. Even if you pay the ransom, there's an option that they can share the data as well. And unfortunately, like we saw with things like the colonial pipeline, is quite often easily avoided if you've got a different way of protecting. So using AI from BlackBerry, for instance, which picks up 0-day threats. But Yeah, 2023 is going to be a busy year, and I think it's going to be it's going to be building even more than 2022 on the number of risks, the number of threats, and the number of these attacks which are successful.
Very good. Yeah, I don't see it going any other way. The focus on cybersecurity is never it's never diminishing, is it? It just seems to be picking up, and it's gaining more and more traction. But equally, it's got to be more and more headlines. We see, like you mentioned earlier, the Travelex thing being was in the press, so stuff like this becoming more commonplace. People are seeing more of it, so we need to be more mindful around how they're conducting their processes and the way they're actually protecting the businesses as well. Lee, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you're super busy, and I appreciate giving up your time to answer these questions for us. And hopefully, the information that you've given and we're going to share with people across social media for where people are watching this is going to be hopefully massively valuable. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Everyone who's watched this, thank you very much for your attention and watching this as well. I hope there's some useful information in there. If there is something in there that piques your interest and you think you want to know a little bit more about it, then feel free to get in touch with myself or Lee, and we'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Other than that, just leave me and say thank you very much once again. If I don't speak to you all before, have a great Christmas and New Year. And that's on behalf of myself and Lee. So thank you very much.
So much. See you.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Thanks, Lee. Bye bye.